Welcome to our 16th episode of the DMV Autocross Podcast. I'm Danny Ko.
And I'm Atta Tavesh. Thank you for joining us on episode number 15. Wow, it's August already. Even F1 is on summer break. Are you taking a break from racing, Danny?
I'm taking a break not buying anything for racing. But summer racing continues for me. Once again, another repeat public service announcement. Make sure you're still hydrated and with minimum sun exposure during these hot days. Sunstrokes are no good. So, Atta, what's coming up in the next 2 weeks?
All right, this week and next week in the DMV Autocross. Very little is going on locally this weekend other than the NCC BMW Test and Tune on Saturday. The event is limited to 25 participants and the registration is already closed. Lots of local SCCA racers are going to the Finger Lakes Tour at Romulus, New York, which is about 20 minutes north of Watkins Glen. The event is held on a World War II runway and is usually very fun and very fast. Lots of good food and good hiking around Watkins Glen, which is a favorite for lots of local autocrossers. If you're not going to be going to that, you should put the event on your calendar for next year.
Yep. Following next Saturday, August 10th, is the WDCR Test and Tune at the Potomac Pad. Registration is still open and you will get a bunch of runs. I used to average 40 to 50 runs at WDCR Test and Tunes, so bring lots of tires, gas, and water. Shane Chin and Roten, Marshall Cohn, our own Alan Claffey, and myself will be working as instructors at the event. Come and get instructions if you like, or try to be Shane before Nationals.
BMC number 3 was rescheduled to August 10th at the Ripken Stadium. Registration is full. This is the Ripken Double, which BMC's event is held on Saturday and Philly SCCA's event is on Sunday. Sunday registration is still available, so if you'd like to race at Ripken, there's another chance. Danny?
Yes, for the second episode in a row, I tricked Alan to come to the DMV Autocross Podcast studio to do a live weather forecast. It's almost like Alan has to commute to the office instead of working from home. Let's welcome our own meteorologist, Alan Claffey.
He's a meteorologist. Also, what the heck is a commutal? What did you say?
So, Alan is an autocrosser who's trying to achieve net zero commuting goals. I think I'm trying too hard on this ologist thing. I think I am.
Is that the first one you've actually made up that's not real?
No, it's real.
No way.
Commutologist.
I feel like you made it up.
Look it up.
Hi, everybody. It's Alan at the Weather Center. Well, I'm not at the Weather Center. I'm in the actual DMV Autocross Podcast recording studios. It's a rare day where we get to do things in the actual studio where the magic happens. I'm going to do the weather again. Danny had me come here to work on stuff, so I'm wearing my work on car clothes, which is not really camera ready, but Danny says we have to do the weather anyway. So we're going to start out on August 3rd. There's a test and tune for the BMW CCA. They will be at the Potomac Pad at Summit Point, and it's going to be 90 degrees and humid. We wait for Danny to produce some numbers here. 9. That's just a 9. It's not going to be 9 degrees. There we go. Beautiful. 90 degrees and humid. We're going to look forward to the next Saturday. WDCR is having a test and tune also at the Potomac Pad. It's going to be 86 with a possibility of an afternoon thunderstorm. 86. Beautiful. Also happening on Saturday, August 10th, Brandywine Motorsports Club will be at Ripken Stadium. It says it's going to be 85 and humid. I don't see any sign of rain in that forecast, so that is encouraging. And even though we don't really consider it DMV, what just happened? Philly region will also be running at Ripken on Sunday. That's going to be 87 and humid. Again, no sign of rain, so that's a plus. We're also, you're not doing numbers anymore? You ran out of numbers. Okay. The other thing we're going to look for, what is happening here? The other thing we're going to look forward to, if you can ignore that minor distraction, Finger Lakes National Tour is going to be a bunch of DC people going to that up in Romulus, New York. It's a beautiful place to run, and it's going to be pretty nice there. Saturday, August 3rd, it says it's going to be 84 and humid, and 80 for a little mark. There you go. Nicely done. Sunday is August 4th, 79. When was the last time I mentioned anything with a 7 in it? 79 and cloudy with a chance of early thunderstorms. So hopefully we're running in the 5th heat where it'll be nice and dried out. Weather there also for those of you camping on site would be in the high 60s for overnight lows. That's going to be decent sleeping weather. So thank you, Danny. All right. Well, we're trying to run a professional show here. I don't know if we succeeded, but I do know you now have weather. You are now informed. We're going to sign off.
Thunderstorm.
No. All right. Back to Danny and Anna. See ya.
Thank you, Alan. I attended the July 20th Autocross Track Cross doubleheader at Summit Point. On a Washington circuit, Mercedes Club was holding their event number 4, and the course was once again a hoot to drive. The weather was in the high 70s and low 80s, which was wonderful. Patrick Gaffney is now officially in a local race winning streak, since Marcus Pine seems to be in dormant during the summer times. Patrick is so fast now that Mercedes no longer uses Asian last name and simply referred to him as Patrick G. Not sure Patrick plays saxophone like Kenny G, but he certainly has reached celebrity status. So for the next 9 losers are Danny Ka, Matt Hu, Brian Ka, Greg Poe, Dustin Gurr, Kemba, Atata, Rex L, and Mark Moo. So track cross was also fun and fast. We ran the standard configuration on Shenandoah, and everybody has 5 runs. Your top 5 in the mornings are Danny Ko, Mark Eller, Ken Wojcik, Nas Allen, and Tyler Ricketts in his Type R, even though he puts it as Type, he registered as Honda Civic.
Honda Civic, yeah.
Not true.
Not true.
Afternoon, we ran the normal direction. Danny Ko, Ken Wojcik, Mark Eller, Jinhan Tian, and Naraz Allen round out the top 5.
Sunday, July 21st was WDCR's number 3 event at Waldorf. We are back in the super hot weather and the competition was fierce. Since it's an SCCA race, we will abandon FTD reporting and go back to calculator racing. The number 1 mathematician goes to Marcus Pine, who laid down a time that the rest of the STR folks can only marvel at. Matt Huffman was second with a 7/10 lead over Lenny Wilcock in STX. Dustin Grubb finished third, followed by Jack Chrissy, Stephen Holzman, Dean Mohit, Sean Glazer, Lenny Wilcock, Patrick Gaffney, and Craig Mark Hefka round out the top 10. Maryland FSAE program was also in attendance, driving the 2024 Terp Racing TR24, and Nicholas Kingsbury took the FTD of the event. Nice to see Maryland FSAE program making a return to local autocrossing, and we hope to see more of them competing. Go College Park.
Yep. Last Saturday was the PCA Potomac event number 4, aka Porsche Fest at the Washington Circuit. I know it sounds like a broken record, but it was another hot day. I enjoyed breakfast muffins and sesame bagels with cream cheese, and my Italian coconut sandwich at lunch was great. Course-wise, everybody enjoyed the entry in the middle section, which was technical, and the slalom to the finish was the most slalom fun I had in 3 years. So kudos to the course improvement and to the course designer. Patrick Gaffney was once again the fastest guy on course, followed by myself, Brian Carwin, Kevin Keaty, Scott Borton, Ken Bain, Steve Mitchell, Mark Hubley, Howard Lincoln, and Ken Wojcik run out the top 10.
Chesapeake PCA number 4 was also hot on July 28th. Mr. GT3 himself, David Critcher, put on a total butt-whooping clinic again. Danny, did I report this at the last episode? I think you forgot to change the script.
Fortunately for Dave and unfortunately for all of us, Dave whooped our butts again.
Okay.
This time we added Mike Taverner and Dean Mohi, and they pushed us down overall ranking again. So the top 10 results are David Crutcher, Mike Taverner, Dean Mohi, Danny Ko, Matt Hoffman, Howard Lincoln, Jordan Vu, Steve Mitchell, Sean Considine, and Dan Ruddick. This event also featured DMV racing legend Jeff Altenberg's return to autocrossing. Howard Lincoln told me that this is the first time Mr. Altenberg autocrossed in the last 27 years. He has multiple SCCA national championships in both autocrossing and road race runoffs. And he's also a multi-time winner in Trans Am races in the Speed World Challenge Touring Car Championship. He was the 11th fastest in his M3 competition at the event. So you never know who you will race against at an autocross event. So come out and maybe you'll meet somebody famous. And this includes the event report of the week.
So Danny, you can cut this out if you want, but Jeff Altenberg is like friends with my parents. I've never met him.
Really?
Yes, really. But he knows my parents. Like, I think he's been to their house, and I don't know. I guess they hang out because they were like, there's a guy and he likes cars, and they said his name, and I was like, I don't know him. And then I looked him up and I was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
So I've actually never met
he
him.
lives in Nautica City, so it must be a neighbor.
Apparently he lives right around here.
Yeah.
So it's
so
right?
I think what's amazing was that I think in 1997 he won the solo national championship. He won a SCCA runoff championship, and he also won the professional championship.
Unbelievable.
That's hosted by SCCA. So he won all the races.
Oh my goodness, that's amazing. That's incredible.
Yeah. Well, anyway,
I was in middle school, I think, at the time.
You were in middle school at the time. You should hang out with him more. Maybe you'd be maybe you'll be Lewis Hamilton by now.
Oh my God.
All right, we'll move on.
For our Feature of the Week segment, we would like to cover an interesting, informative, or fun topic which could lead to a benefit for all autocrossers. We are honored to be joined by Ryan St. Louis, Autocross Chair for the Washington, D.C. region, SCCA, as our featured club in the podcast. Welcome, Ryan.
Thanks. I even got applause. That was unexpected. Yeah, look at that.
Here's another one.
Yeah.
But Ryan, you didn't get a golf club. We'll give you a loud clap.
Well, I didn't want to blow the, how sometimes they'll pick up weird things. I didn't want to mess up the mic, but I would have clapped very loud.
Yeah.
The message came across loud and clear.
Yeah, we're clapping you like you're Tiger Woods. No, just All right.
Hey, have you ever seen British royalty clap? They do one of these.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Are you supposed to respond like this?
Yeah.
All right.
Yep.
And well, then again, thank you for joining us, Ryan. And we're honored to have you. Could you tell us a little bit about yourself and where you're from and your autocross experience for our listeners?
Sure. So I may be a little bit of a dark horse. I kind of maybe seemingly came out of nowhere, but actually started in Oklahoma where I used to live. And when I sold cars, there was a guy who'd come around and fix seats in the cars, getting ready for sale, make them pretty. The guy's name is Wendell Carrig. He was actually pretty good back in the day. He had a CSP RX-7. I think he's got a couple of jackets. And I was a young kid who just wanted to go fast. And I said, maybe I want to be a race car driver or whatever. And he's like, hey, have you ever tried autocross, And I was like, what's that? And he says, oh, you drive around cones in parking lots, like miniature time trials. You only get to like 45, 50 miles an hour or whatever. And I was like, well, that sounds stupid. Where do I sign up? So, like a lot of first-time autocrossers, you go out there and you just send it, and you're pushing left and you're pushing right, and you think you're going so fast, but you're just making a lot of noise, and you come in DFL. And, that's what I did too, just like anybody else.
In what car?
Okay, so I had an 88 MR2 back in the day. Yeah, an AW11 MR2. And I switched to a 95 Civic that I had lowered it and stuff like that. I had it before Fast and Furious come out. So Fast and Furious was like made for me, right? I had that black Honda, the ones that chasing the DVD trucks.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and I put springs and shocks, sway bars, and it was the wrong car for STS, and I just sent it anyway. And I had a lot of fun with that for 2 or 3 years. And then life happened, and my wife got a job up here where we were actually from. So we moved up here, and that was the heyday of WDCR. And if you didn't have a season subscription and you weren't like sitting on the button with your DSL like hot wired on a good day with the planets all lined up, you were not getting into an event. So the only event that I attended that year was the national tour that they had. And That was the first tour I ever did, was the one in DC in 2003. Finished dead last in STS because I didn't have the right tire and I didn't have the right car, and it wasn't that good. I'd only been autocrossing for like 3 years. But you know what? I was having a family at that time, and things were just kind of headed in a different direction. So I took a long break.
Yep.
In the meantime, I got Big Red back here. And I always vowed that if I ever got one of these, I wouldn't be one of those stodgy old men who just washed it on Sundays and took out cars and coffees. I wanted to thrash it because that's what it's meant to do, right? So 2017, I said, you know what? I'm going to get back into it. Life has kind of settled down a little bit. Kids are getting older. And I just went and, got slow again.
Good.
And WDCR is actually just totally crazy. Even in 2017, you're still selling out 300 cars at FedEx Field. It was just bonkers. And even, B Street, which this car was even back then, it was 20 cars sometimes. It's just thick classes everywhere. And then the pandemic came. I started setting up the car. Pandemic came, and I just drove. And I got a little bit better. Most people would call me like mid-pack national level driver. Still don't have any trophies or anything like that. But that's kind of the story in a nutshell. Took 3 years in Oklahoma, did some stuff, came out here, did some more stuff, and here we are today.
Yeah, that break that you mentioned, that long break, I've seen it as we interview more people, as I meet older autocrossers who I thought were new but weren't new, and they just came back to it. One of the people that comes to mind is, I believe, Bill Stockton, right?
Bill Stockton, yeah.
I thought he was like new to autocross, but apparently he's been doing it for a long time, and then there's a break that happens with life, right? Whether it's kids or job or whatever. And so you saying that, I'm kind of like thinking to myself, like, you're not the only one, brother. Like, it's
well, it's funny. Bill and I bonded right away. He brought Abby out to an event like at Washington or something, right when the pandemic was ending. And he and I hit it off right away. It was daddy-daughter track day that day, because he had his daughter there and some other guy had his daughter there. And I brought my daughter that day. And my oldest daughter is a year younger than Abby. So,
okay,
he and I hit it off right away. And the more he and I have gotten to know each other, the more we found out that our lives have kind of taken a similar track, especially when it comes to autocross. We'll sit here and talk about the old days when, street classes were stock classes and we had compound tires on these cars. And it cost a fortune to be competitive.
So speaking of Bill and Abby, let's go over some of the committee members for the WDCR. Can you give us an intro, maybe a name, and then what their responsibilities, their primary responsibilities? I know a lot of people are shifting, so it's not only thing they do.
Yeah,
Can you kind
sure.
of go over that with us?
Yeah, so, I wish I could rename it the leadership team, because that's really kind of what they are.
You can go on.
I think there's something.
Minions.
No, I'm not going to call them minions. I got way too much respect for them to call them minions.
But I love those movies.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we have to wear yellow instead of red then.
The colors. No, just kidding.
So we got me. We got Tom Carroll. He's my co-chair. And we've got Kate and Alan Claffey. They are, I kind of affectionately call them troop quartermasters, because they've been bringing all the gear to Waldorf lately. Bill Stockton has really stepped up as course designer at Waldorf, because some other people just didn't want to come down to Waldorf and do courses down there. Let's see, we've got Larry and we've got Steve Mitchell. They're safety guys. They run all the safety stuff. Abby's kind of a new person. I've been kind of giving her some stuff to do here and there, just to kind of see where her talents are. And she's so congenial. I've actually put her on the banquet committee with the region leadership. So she's going to start working on that. There's actually some interesting news about that. I'll circle back to in a minute. So who else do we got? We got CJ O'Donnell. He's a new member. He's got a really interesting resume too. He comes from motorsports marketing, and he worked for like Ford and some Indy teams. Crazy stuff. If you guys want somebody else to interview for, meet a new friend, see if you can get that guy on, because he's very interesting. And then who else is left? Kevin, right? He's timing. Kevin, Marshall, and Sean, they're the timing guys. I'm
Katie.
Stupid. Yeah, Katie, registrar. Dustin Grubbs, he's our new chief of timing. So Kevin, like a lot of these guys, they've been there like 20 years. and he's starting to move on in life. He's actually looking to maybe retreat a little bit from the solo committee, and so we found a new chief of timing. That's Dustin Grubbs, and he's just done a bang up job. Let's see, who else do we got? Katie's great too. Katie, she's the master of motorsports reg. I send her like an email, say, hey, fix this guy's thing, or add this, or put a promo code in. It just happens, and she gets it done. And then we all know and love Mike Brown. He's Mr. Congeniality. He's more than just a worker chief. That guy, he makes sure everybody's included. He's the nicest, most approachable guy there is, and he's just everybody's friend straight away. So
Brandon,
I hope
and
I'm going to leave it. Oh yeah, Brandon.
Mike, yeah.
Brandon, Mike McKee. He's been novice coordinator forever. Brandon, he's really stepped up to be he's kind of stepped in the role as Mike McKee's been busy with his job as, Captain Mustache in the police car. And
Sergeant Hightower.
Yeah.
Sorry, Hightower.
So Brandon's been jumping in cars of noobs and showing them a way around courses. And he's done a really good job. And then Brian and Lisa, they run our schools. Brian, he's been autocrossing for, I don't know, since, the 1800s or something like that.
Since you started.
Yeah, since I started.
Got him.
Yeah. But Brian's great because he knows so many high-level national people that some of the new people have never even heard of. And he says, hey, I'll run the school. I'll say, cool. And it just gets done. He's been feeding me little tasks here and there just to kind of, sort of groom me for maybe taking over one day. I hope that's what he's doing, but started to help him out some, but I don't do anything. I just take all the stuff he didn't want to do. He made the schools. He runs them. He gets all the instructors. He's great.
Does he also do the test and tunes or just the schools?
Yeah, he does the test and tunes.
Okay, so both pretty much.
Yeah,
Nice.
yeah. Everything that happens at Potomac, he does all that stuff.
Awesome.
Yep.
Okay, so Ryan, got an interesting question here. So what made you decide that you want to take over this large of a autocross program? I mean, this is a big program. The SCCA is a jumbo region. I'm sure it has its challenges from its region, right? Because it's just the fact that it's so big, and from committees and members and board members and so on and so on. So how did you manage to get everything in order now after this is your second year, right? Now, how did you manage to get everything in order and then start running real successful programs?
Well, so the first part of your question is, why did I decide to take it? There's a quote I've heard on the radio lately that's really kind of struck a chord with me, and it says, big men do big things during big times. And after the pandemic, we didn't have a season. We didn't have a season in 2020. We didn't have a season in 2021. Or I think maybe we started a little bit in West Virginia 2021. But we went for months and months and months without a season. And during that time, everybody left because we weren't there. So, I came in, I joined the committee. Fonte was looking for committee members. I said, yeah, why not? I'll try it out. There's some things that maybe I want to kind of see happen in the club. And I thought that'd be a good way to get it done. And, life came at her. She decided she wanted to spend some more time with her kids who are involved in a lot of stuff. She's got some other stuff going on. And I just raised my hand and I said, hey, I'd love to be considered. And everybody said, yeah, I think you'd be a great choice. I really didn't think I'd be chosen by my peers as the solo chair. I kind of stuck my hand up thinking I'd say, maybe next time, Ryan, or something like that. But everybody thought I'd be great at it. And I said, okay, let's just go. So, the challenges that have been put forth to me are not lost on me at all. I know I've got to rebuild this epic program that was selling out 300 slots, in 5 minutes, that kind of thing. Maybe we'll never get there, but I'm going to try my hardest to get there. That's for sure. And one thing, you may not be able to tell by my driving, but I am really very competitive.
Get it, man.
So
the way he said that. I'm sorry. You got me.
Ada's really competitive too.
Yeah, you can't tell by my driving either.
I've heard. But you know what? I don't want to suck at anything. So if I'm going to do it, I'm just going to go all in, just right in the deep end, and just put everything I got into it. And I hope that's showing with my effort at WDCR.
No, it's 100% of the shots.
It certainly does. This year, you can see, the course is getting better. The events are running better. Things are just. I mean, this last event was great. I mean, really enjoyable. Yeah.
And speaking of that, how could you list some of the improvements for this season? I've seen a lot of improvements, but I'd kind of like you to kind of echo them and say what one of the biggest changes I saw was how much the fees, they were reduced in prices. Show me something that's gone down in price in the last 20 years.
What?
I can't.
Yeah, that came
Deflation.
Deflate. I've never heard the word deflation before. Okay.
Ryan St. Louis is economic 101. Deflation.
Brother.
Oh yeah.
The course design. It's unbelievable. This last event was so fun and fast that a couple of cars even lost control going so fast. I think I was one of them.
I was another one.
You were another one.
Yeah.
So
there's a smoky burnout picture floating around the internet of a Auto's car.
Probably photoshopped though. Probably. Well,
no, it's definitely not. It's definitely not. So, fees kept creeping up. Everything was going up.
Yep.
And I had to figure out a way to get car counts up. We were still bringing like 90, maybe 100 cars at Waldorf last year. But one of the things I did differently this year is something my brother-in-law used to tell me all the time. Use your ears and your mouth in proportion, right? You got 2 ears and 1 mouth, right? So you should use these twice as much. So I started listening to people. People were saying, oh, you guys are the most expensive ones. Brandon Kiker just said it on a podcast last, 1 or 2 weeks ago. But I think we're the cheapest one. I think we're the best value per run of any club out there, I think. And I think it's shown. People are starting to pay attention now that we're here. And I'm plugging social media like crazy. People need to know that we're not gone. We're there. And, I want everybody to think we're the best. Because, we kind of are. But the car counts have improved. So just Sunday, we had 132. I think that's a new record for at least us at Waldorf. So people are starting to take notice. And I think a lot of that had to do with just reducing the fees. The $65 was just way too much, especially for Waldorf. And some people say, oh, we don't really need 5 runs. You know what? You're getting 5 runs for $55 at Waldorf. That's just it. And we've got the time to do it. We get started. First car off was at 9:15, and we were packed up and ready to roll off the lot at 3:30.
No,
so it's not like we can't handle it.
You were done at 2:53.
We were done at 2:53.
Yeah, Danny was timing you. Yep. 2:53.
Yeah. I had somebody tell me we were doing like 110 cars per hour, or 110 runs per hour.
Wow.
So, yeah, we get it done over there. But I don't do it alone. I mean,
right.
Look at the team I just listed out just a few minutes ago. These people are they're amazing. And, I make sure I try to tell them every single time that we have any sort of interaction that I appreciate everything that they're helping me do. And then we're a team. And, just can't do it without them. They're doing it. They're doing it more than I am. As for the courses, Bill, I don't know. He's just doing magic stuff, I guess.
That course was incredible.
Yeah. And I think he's listening too. People are telling him stuff. And he designed a couple of courses years ago. But last year, when he started designing courses at Waldorf, that was like his first one at 20 years. And he only did like 1 or 2 before. So he's had a steep learning curve. And he's done really, really well. And he listens to feedback, and he just gets it done.
Yeah, I mean,
he's done a really good job.
The last course that was done on Waldorf had no crossover. We had 3 cars on course. You're firing each group, within 20 to 22, 23 seconds per car.
Yeah.
Yep. I mean, it's the most ideal situation you can have because you get everybody else plenty of runs, and you did not leave people out there, for long, right? So it was excellent. It really was. Yeah.
I've been picking his brain about a lot of other stuff lately. So I really need to spend some time with him and pick his brain about where he's getting all these course ideas. But I mean, if you watch his posts on social media and stuff, he's going to pros and tours constantly. I mean, he's already been to like 15 or 20 this year.
Yep, Ryan, that slalom that he did, this last one, it had a feel of a big event. It really did. That slalom felt juicy. And I don't know. I like it.
Yep.
I like it.
When they did the safety run, they went and pinched it off at the end because they thought it was too fast. And some people were still calling it a little too fast. You know?
No, there's no such thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, no kidding.
Danny, can you just, I'm looking at the question. Hit him with the next one, please. I can't wait to hear.
I'm going to hit you with the biggest question where everybody wants to ask.
That's what I want to know.
All right.
Okay.
So are we getting FedEx back? You know, like what's up? You know, like any negotiation, right? Because everybody I talk to, they are saying, well, we want FedEx back, right? So in addition of the FedEx question, do you anticipate any future changes of the program that we can look forward to?
So I knew that question was coming, and not just because you send them ahead of time.
Yeah.
So FedEx, everybody talks about FedEx, right? FedEx is off the table because it's not even called FedEx anymore, right? They took the sponsorship away. Now it's Commander's Field.
Okay, so now me rephrase that question.
Hold on, request. Ask him again, Dan.
Okay.
So now here's my big question: are we getting Commander's Field back?
Commander's Field, formerly FedEx. I get that question a lot, and I knew that question was coming. Not just because you sent the questions in advance. I knew that was coming because everybody asked me, "Are we getting that spot back?"
Are you going to change the name of the field again so we can do it again the third time?
Yeah, we can do it 3 times. Wait, he probably didn't change the name of the field. That's probably the actual name, isn't it?
What, Commander's Field?
Yeah, that's
you're
what
not
they're calling it. I didn't know
that's what they're calling it.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay,
I'll tell you why.
I changed back to like Jack Kent Cooke Stadium or something.
Jack Kent Cooke
Stadium. Jack Kent Cooke Stadium.
RFK.
Yeah.
So fun fact for the cutting room floor, FedEx dropped their sponsorship deal. It was like $15 million a year.
Wow.
They just ended it. The contract expired or something, and they just chose not to renew. So they don't have a name for the site anymore except Commander's Field.
Right.
Wow.
Yep.
It could be the WDCR SCCA field.
We don't have $15 million.
No,
we don't have $15 million.
Call it SCCA field. How crazy would that be?
Yeah, I know, right?
That just means that each entry fee will be like $10,500.
$10,000 per run.
Yeah.
10,000 a run. Yeah. Yeah, people go for that.
Call up the Ferrari club. Let's go.
Yeah, no kidding. No kidding.
So not much of a chance for FedEx, eh?
So here's the story behind FedEx, okay? You know, the whole drama with the team owner and all the managers got fired and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And when all that went down, they got rid of all non-football events. That was just it. They just canceled them all.
Yeah.
Now the new ownership's in place, okay? There is start to rebuild the management core, and they have a new person in charge of non-football events.
Uh-oh.
We have had some conversation with him, but that's really all I can say because that's all I got. We're supposed to be talking with them again soon, and I don't know how that's going to go yet because that's in the future. Other than that, you know, my attitude about site has been if we can't have the best site, then we're going to get them all. So I've been aggressively seeking sites. I've done 3 in-person site visits this year, and 2 didn't pan out. One, I was so sure it was going to go that I put it on the calendar with a to be determined, but it came apart because it's an airfield and FAA grants and stuff like that got in the way. Another one looked promising, but once we got there and really understood what we were getting, it kind of didn't work out. But maybe someday, if they can get some stuff sorted on their end, we can, you know, get that going. The third one is actually a Virginia site, and I can't reveal who it is now, but 95% sure that it's going to be on the calendar next year.
Wonderful.
That's breaking news right here on the DMV podcast. That's breaking news.
Are you restricting registration to Virginia residents? Like if it's in
No, the Creepy Tartan crew will be allowed to participate. Yep.
Oh man, I love it.
You guys love your flag, man. You guys love your flag.
We do.
But I'm telling you what, Virginia's got a pretty cool flag because
Well, yeah, you were
our
telling
flag
me
is
that. Yeah.
yes, our flag is the only one with a little bit of mild pornography involved.
Yeah, there's boobs on the flag.
What?
Yep.
Yeah, I know, Danny.
Yes. Yeah.
I'm
There's
serious.
I gotta go buy
Yes.
myself a flag.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Yep. Yeah.
Oh.
So yeah. So
You got to open up incognito browser, and then you could actually see their flag. It's very inappropriate,
Watch out,
Yep.
CrowdStrike might be on you.
dude. Oh my goodness, it's actually so the flag itself is kind of boring, but then you zoom in, like zoom and enhance, and it gets very interesting. There's
Oh, yeah.
someone stepping on someone else. They're probably having some
Oh, yeah.
kind of.
somebody's
wanna say-
bleeding.
Am I allowed to
Yeah.
say intercourse on a podcast?
Oh, no.
Because that's what they were doing.
No, that's not the
before.
Virginia flag. No, she
Yes.
just no, she fucked
Yes.
him up.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, no, she fucked him up because he's
Yeah.
a tyrant. Yeah,
It was
we don't do
because after
tyranny
they finished, she's
or
like
tyranny.
a female praying mantis. You know what they do to the males, Ryan? I know.
I
you
know what they do. I know
Chop,
what they
chop.
Do.
That's
I
what she's
know, I
doing to
married
him.
one.
Well, how does this become a Lorena Bobbitt flag?
They chopped the
Lorena
head off.
Bobbitt
Danny.
flag.
Not
No,
not
they
what you
chop
think.
it
They chopped the whole head
Okay,
off.
I'm sorry. I
Praying
apologize.
mantises are dangerous.
Oh yeah.
All right, we
Yeah.
better bring ourselves back before we got banned by the FCC or by the SCCA main office.
Yeah.
All right, so,
So-
any future changes to the program we can look forward to, other than that we might get a
Sites.
a beautiful site in the semi-pornographic state?
Virginia is for lovers.
Virginia is for lovers. So as far as changes to next year's program, considering a bunch of different things, I haven't really nailed down certain things. But one thing I do want to do is have events at multiple sites. I kind of wanted to work that in this year. It didn't happen, but this year or next year it's definitely happening because we're at least adding one site to our portfolio. We may be adding 2, and we may be adding 3. So expect
do we have a chance
a lot
to-
of events.
Do we have a chance to get a tour? Like a location large enough to get a tour somewhere?
Maybe, but not next year. Next year's definitely out of the cards for a tour.
All right.
But that's definitely something I'm working towards, because everybody wants that.
Well,
The site in Virginia, Brian Garfield actually says might be big enough to hold a tour. I'm not quite as sure as he is, and once we have a couple events there, we'll see how it goes and see how they like us being there. See how the pavement holds up, that kind of thing.
Right.
Yep.
Well, maybe it's big enough for the tour that only for his part.
God.
Yeah, no kidding. H Street tour, that way everybody gets a 60-second run.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
Headshot
H Street
play.
only tour. Yeah. So yeah, I'm thinking about a sort of a regional tour idea, and this is sort of an extrapolation of Avante. Avante wanted this idea actually, and for whatever reason she just never quite got there. It's a lot of work. She's a busy lady. I don't know. Maybe I'm not as busy. I don't know, but yeah, we're probably gonna have definitely 2 sites next year in our schedule, and maybe 3 or 4.
Right. We did run I believe it was 2007 or 2008. We did run a divisional tour at a FedEx at Lot A.
Mm-hmm.
That we sponsored them on our own. So yeah. So that was it. That was an interesting thing. A lot of good fast people came. So
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I'm with everybody. I mean, I want FedEx or some big site back, just like everybody else. I peeped FedEx, and they've got something going on with the pavement over there. I think they're putting sealant on it or something. I don't know how that might go. And I don't know if they're doing the whole thing or not. But, I've got my eyes on that one for sure. I'm working on it.
I love
Yeah.
that update.
I mean, but whatever
Yeah.
it is, we know that you're trying, which we
Yep,
appreciate. Yeah.
That's what I love. That's all.
I really am.
Yeah.
And I got to give a shout out to Tom Carroll. That guy is a bulldog. Those guys who call you about your auto warranty is
Oh, yeah.
expired all the time?
Oh yeah,
I think he used to be one of those guys or something because he just doesn't leave anybody alone.
that's awesome.
Yeah.
I love
Yeah, and finally they just pick up the phone just to get him off their back. And
Please, sir, please stop
That's how-
calling us.
Yeah, that's how we've gotten at least 2 site visits. So
Awesome.
Tom Carroll, he's been absolutely choice.
Awesome.
Great.
That's
Yep.
great.
All right, Ryan. Well, thank you very much for joining us today. We hope that you'll come back and join us at later podcasts, and we're always looking forward to guest hosts such as yourself. So WDCR's next event will be at the Blue Crab Stadium in Waldorf on August 18th, and the region's Test and Tune is on August 10th at the Potomac Pad at Summit Point. And plenty of spots are still available at time of recording. So looking forward to seeing you at the next event, Ryan, and thank you so much.
Yeah, me too. Thanks, guys. This was fun.
Thank you, Ryan.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I'm giving you the bow now.
Oh, yes.
Because you're the cheese.
All right, welcome. Thank you for our guest, Jeff Goldsmith. Jeff, welcome, and thank you so much for joining us today. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. So thanks for having me. Like you said it, my name is Jeff Goldsmith. I mostly drive a white C7 Corvette in formerly A Street, B Street this year at WDCR. If you've been to DC region autocrosses or anything, you've probably seen me at either a DC event, if it was pre-COVID, a CDC event, Brandywine, all those kind of clubs.
That's wonderful. Well, thank you and so much for joining us. And I did hear a rumor you might be jumping into CAM at some point. Is that true as well?
Maybe.
Okay.
Maybe.
All right. We got a couple of questions for you today, and we're just so lucky that you're here and you made some time for us. So thanks again. Tell us a little bit about your autocross experience and how did you start? Who'd you run with? What kind of cars, classes did you run?
Sure. So I was first introduced to autocross in 2006 with the Finger Lakes region of SCCA.
Oh,
Yeah. So I was going to RIT at the time, and
Rochester?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And they used to run in one of the parking lots on campus.
Nice.
And so at the end of 2006, I became the proud owner of a 2006 Volkswagen GTI, which was like first year Mark V GTI. And so I don't remember if it was in fall of 06 or like spring of 07, but I did some events that were on campus because I was like, this is amazing. And basically ever since, I ended up taking a year or two off when I was finishing my master's thesis. And then I met people when I moved to Tyson's who were very into autocross, who don't live in the area anymore, but who used to be involved in the SCCA board and CDC board and all that kind of stuff. And then I started doing a bunch when I got down in the region. But I guess just to go back, even the GTI, autocross was amazing, and I was a terrible driver, and I was also horribly classed because I think I was in street mod almost the whole time because of a subframe brace.
Ooh, ouch.
Right.
Absolutely.
Right. So, just part of the joy of the rule book, right? But it was just, I was like average kind of car enthusiast, like I'll do the mods that are popular for this particular car this time, and then you go to autocross and you're like, oh wait, I'm gonna have to run street mod. But whatever.
Street mod in a stock GTI, I love it.
Yeah, basically, right? Yeah. With terrible tires. And there were tons of times where, I was either probably last or didn't even get a time or something, right? But it's, autocross is hard, but it's still, it's wonderful. And so anyway, then I moved to Virginia and so in the building I was living in Tyson's, and one of the first nights first month or two that I was living there, I go to my parking spot and I see these two guys like working on a Mark II Volkswagen.
Ooh.
And being like a VW boy, I was like, oh, let me go talk to these guys. They'll be my friends. And they did become my friends. And they were like, oh, we autocross all the time. And they're like, oh, what kind of car do you want? Would you want or something? And I was like, oh, I always did kind of want an NA Miata, which I then eventually bought like a year later. So I did a ton of autocross in this region, right, with DC and CDC and PCA and BMW and everything, right?
Love it.
So yeah, and then now I'm driving that C7 Corvette.
That's awesome. So speaking of that Corvette, we are here at an SCCA HPDE right now, not an actual autocross. Do you attend HPDE often, and what do you like about it?
Yeah. So I don't attend the most often, or I haven't. This year, this is my third, and that's a lot, and I'm trying to do more. I was fortunate enough to have 2 girls last year, so my motorsports activities are...
Congratulations.
I can't go every weekend anymore.
Twins?
Yeah, twins.
Or 10 months apart. Just kidding, I'm kidding.
Oh, man, yeah, that'd be intense. But no, the two twin girls.
That's fantastic.
So hopefully, at least one of them will be into this car hobby too. But yeah, basically, so I got the Corvette in 2019, and the idea of getting that car was I wanted something that I could run in street class autocross.
Yes.
That I could also do some DEs with, because I had done
Perfect.
one DE in my Miata. And it was fun, but it broke in like the second session, and it's just nerve-wracking with a really modified car. And then, we had the pandemic, and actually because of the pandemic, I was like, oh, I'm going to do all this autocross in 2020.
Yeah, nope.
But I was able to get to a track day, because I was like, well, hey, if I do a DE, I don't have to be standing around people all the time. There's nobody else in the car.
Right, you're a little bit more.
Yeah. So I went to VIR in November of 2020. With the Corvette, or maybe it was 21, I don't know, whenever we were able to actually do this. And then I've been doing a handful a year, because I really found with the Corvette that, well, okay, in a Miata, or Miata-like cars, I've been able to go to autocross, and you can at least approach the limits a lot more easily. But you can't in something like the Corvette. And so the idea was, well, I want to get more experience on track, but I hope that it would also improve my autocross skills in that car for like higher speed things, right? So if I was ever going to go to a national event and there's going to be just a giant runway slalom at 90 miles an hour or something, like where else are you going to get that experience? So that was kind of the idea.
So I feel like you kind of answered my next question about how did you cross into track driving, and you gave even the reasons why. So let's jump to the next one.
Sure.
Where can we find you at events to say hello? What's the next one you got scheduled, and any aspirations of autocross and track?
Yeah, so not sure what I have scheduled next. I am probably this year prioritizing more of these SCCA DEs, because the goal is I want to do TT right at the time trial. So I think that the ideas of the new classes, right, like those spec NC and S197, like if SCCA wants to go in that direction, I think that's a really good choice. I really like the time trial rules because
Would you join in one of those spec classes?
I'm not too interested in either of those cars.
Okay.
But if there were more spec classes,
Got it.
maybe in the future, right? Depending on what happens, I kind of want to wait and see for a year or two, because I could also just decide I want to put my Corvette into Sport 1, and the wider wheels and tires would basically fix whatever issues I have with it, and then just run cam locally, and that's fine, right? I'm not going to nationally compete in that car.
And that's okay too?
And that's totally fine. Yeah, right? So that would be great. But yeah, I want to at least experience time trial, hopefully later this year, if not next year probably. But yeah, if I'm lucky, I'll get to some other like local autocrosses, right? Either DC region, Brandywine, PCA, whatever.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
So I want to throw a couple bonus questions at you. How did you do today?
So far, I'm pretty happy. So I guess a new personal best, right? But that doesn't mean much because it's really the first time I've ever run this configuration. But I was like 2 seconds faster than yesterday. Okay. So like, actual measurable improvement. I feel like it was pretty good.
Could you say with like any level of confidence, do you think autocross has helped you in your journey to DEs?
Oh, yes. And I think even for me, I've run DEs with a variety of organizations, and every time I run with a new organization, I always sign up as a novice, and I'll be like, okay, you guys promote me if you think I can or whatever. And, the kind of having to step back and do these very basic things that like in autocross you might take for granted, of like the way you brake and steer, and you're like, I'm okay if it gets a little loose, because you don't want to do that at 120 miles an hour somewhere. But I think there are certain habits at autocross, like okay, one of the things that I've said to a lot of people, I prefer autocross to track driving.
Yes.
And
same.
Yeah. And it's more, I think it's more exciting. Like I say to people, like it's more violent, like, cause you're just sawing at the wheel and like getting it just at the edge of grip. And if it's sliding, you just catch it, and it's such a, minute long adrenaline rush. Right. Yeah. But I have had to be conscious, like, especially in the Corvette, of like really be mindful of steering and throttle, like really telling myself smooth, right? In a way that I don't usually to autocross. But I think that certain elements of the track driving will make me faster at autocross.
Oh, so it's a two-way street.
I do. I think so. I think that I think that if I can drive really fast on track, like good, measurable, respectable times, and I can do that smoothly, but still have the autocross instinct of being able to catch it or just move the car a little bit, like just wiggle around something, you know? I think that when I go back to some autocross event, you know, it'll pay off.
There, I love it. I love it. All right, well, thank you so much, and I will see you at the next autocross.
That's right.
Thank you so much.
Nice talking to you.
Yep, bye. This concludes our podcast episode. Everyone is excused except for the novices. Our novice meeting begins now. For today's novice meeting, we are going to be talking about how long will it take me to get better? And this is a good question, Danny, because we're all competitive. We all love this. We all love cars. We all love coming out here and doing what we do. But sometimes it can kind of feel like I'm not growing, or I'm not getting faster, or everyone else is getting faster and I'm not. And it can be a little daunting, maybe is the right word. But do you have any advice for the novices? Because the first time I came out, I thought I was going to win the whole thing, and I didn't. In fact, I was last.
Well, I was last when I first started. I think, to be quite honest, if you come out on your first autocross and you're last, it's going to take a long time for you to get better.
I'm still working on it.
Yeah. And then, but if you come out and all of a sudden you're like, you know, like you're in the top 10, then I don't think it's going to take you very long to get better.
Sure.
Right.
Makes sense.
So it's like anything else. I mean, like Adam and I started doing this podcast in the first year.
Yeah.
Right. So we're done. This is our 15th episode or 16th attempt at a podcast now. Right. We still suck.
Yeah, I know. It's so painful.
I know.
Danny, I can't watch the videos. Like I try.
Yeah.
It's so hard to like listen to us. I'm like, what am I saying?
Yeah.
At least you sound like a normal human.
No, I don't. I mean,
I think you do.
But honestly, it's like certain things just takes a long time for people to get better at it. Right. And then you turn around, you can watch somebody else start doing their first podcast and they get 1 million views or whatever. Right.
Yeah.
So some people are just naturals, and then which is okay. But I would say, if we go back to racing and autocrossing, I think that if you only have the experience of how to drive and you're a young person, but you're athletic with fast hand-eye coordination, right? And you can absorb information fast, you can probably be pretty fast in a hurry, right? The ones that are slow, get to it, are the ones that refuse to kind of break yourself down and say, okay, here, yeah, I don't have what it takes, right? Because everything I've learned on driving and cars and all that stuff is not geared toward autocrossing. So like, for example, I am a perfect candidate, right? So I didn't start autocrossing until I was 41, right? Mm-hmm. So I know how to drive a car, but it has nothing to do with autocrossing or racing in general, right? Yeah. So I can name a few things in general, right? One, I used to drive with one hand, and then I put my hands on a shifter, right? Mm-hmm. And I know how to drive a stick shift. I don't know how to heel toe. I still do very bad at it, right? I can do decent heel toes on an ND Miata. That's because the pedal is attached on the ground and it's long. Mm-hmm. And now I'm jumping into my GR86 where the pedal is electronic. It's drive-by-wire. It's hanging on top and it's not attached to the pedal on the bottom. Yeah. So when I do heel toe, my heel is hitting nothing. There. Yeah. Air. Right. So these are the things that we're talking about between racing driving versus normal street driving. So you can come back and say, hey, I know how to drive a stick shift, but do you really? Right. For racing, you probably don't. Right. So it's just like the same thing. I put my right hand over there. I do my one shift. So I'm driving like that, or sometimes, with cars with good power steering, I steer with the finger, right? Or steer with my knee while I'm eating.
Oh, yes.
Okay. Yes. Those are the things that you cannot do at autocrossing, right? Yep. Or when you start driving, are you doing 3 to 9 and then just rotate like this? Or you shuffle steering? Or you just go, right? Or you drive and then doing this way and then just let go of the steering wheel, right?
Then come back, catch it.
Right. These are the things that are actually preventing you to become good at autocrossing. The earlier you recognize the issues that you have or the regular habit that you developed, right? Mm-hmm. Like if you insist on like driving in first gear because you think you're the fastest in first gear, right? Give it up, right? This is the reason why that you're not getting faster in autocrossing. It's the bad habits that we develop before autocrossing. Right. So for me, It took me a while. It took me a long time. I had to break away the bad habits first, right? Like when I'm making a turn into any corner, right? Back in the day, instead of driving and then basically apexing and turn in, right? If I turn in any tight corner, all I do is I drive up in a straight row, then I pull it off to the curb and then hug the curb and go in. So then all of a sudden the turn, instead of powering, going the direction I need to go, I'm turning in so late that I'm always going to the corner like this, not like that, right? And that's something that I developed for 40 some years, right? Or actually, I started driving when I was 16. And then I started autocrossing when I was 41. I never broke the bad habit until I was 47, 48, right? So for 30 some years, I'm doing this on every corner instead of this on every corner, right? And it's hard to break.
Yeah.
It's a very hard habit to break, right? Or, things like, manual cars are faster than stick shift cars. I mean, are faster than automatic cars. Yeah. That applies when I was driving.
Yeah.
Right. For all these years, right? Those old torque converters that they're not programmable, they're not going to be faster.
Right.
Right. But you know what? Last 10 years, PDKs and all that stuff. Or even the programmable torque converter cars like Supras or whatever.
ZF.
Faster.
The ZF is faster.
New Camaros. They are faster, right? So don't go in and insist on, hey, look, I can drive faster in the stick shift than an automatic. You see what I'm saying? That's precisely these things that you develop, that you remember as the goal or the standard, right? But once you enter this type of environment, the goals and standards are different.
Yeah.
Right. So I think this is probably more geared towards people like older people or, the people that's been doing this for a while in certain hobbies, and they cross over, to autocrossing. Right.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, if you constantly carry these type of preconceptions that, hey, my way is faster, right? It's probably going to take you some time and quite a bit of time to get faster.
Okay. So breaking these habits, that sounds like one of the goals you can kind of focus on to help yourself get faster.
That's right. And with that, I mean, the best way to break those habits is to get good instruction, right?
Okay.
Find people that are driving faster, right? And basically ask them to ride with you, ask them to drive your car and all of that stuff. And that will give, you a pretty good idea on how to really get faster. So that would be the number one thing. I think the number one thing is breaking old habits that you developed for a long time if you're not improving, right? And then that usually takes a long time to get better. I mean, so for me, to break all of my habits, get into autocrossing or actually time attack, real racing skills, basically throw all the stuff that I've done away, for 41 years to whatever I have, that took me a good 7 years.
Wow. That's amazing.
Or another thing that one of the major thing is throttling and braking, right? So I actually try left foot braking. And there are people that insist on left foot braking are faster, right? You know what? Maybe 1 or 2% of the people who left foot brakes are faster. Majority of the people that left foot brake are probably not faster, right? Because they have bad habits.
That's true.
Right? So the thing is, I've seen people that when they go through anything, their brake light is on. They're constantly dragging that brake, even if it's not necessary.
Yeah.
Right? So when I was left foot braking, my left foot lights will always come on and stay on for some time, because I realized that when action gets hot, I would tend to tap the left as insurance.
Wow.
And so then when I stopped doing that. And then when I started driving, when I'm on my throttle, when I go to every fast corner, every transition, right? Because that habit was there formed, I would do throttle, transition, tap, transition, tap.
Wow.
Transition, tap. And I'm not the only one. Right. A lot of people do that. Right. So instead of throttle, lift, tap, back on throttle, right? And then now a lot of times I would drive throttle, tiny bit off, throttle, tiny bit off, throttle, or just hell throttle. Right? Those are things that it all depends on how long, or if you started driving like this, or you started driving like that. And then those are extremely hard to break. Right? That took me a whole year to trust my right foot.
Just trust yourself.
And then play with modulation. Right? For some people, they can break it in one day because they don't have those bad habits. Right?
Yeah.
But if you have years of bad habits, and then you insist on that bad habit is a good habit, right?
Yeah.
And that's the time that it becomes super difficult.
Well, that mentality of insisting that something that might not be working is working, that's not good for in any way,
That's
shape,
right.
or form. So
That's
that's always a hard one.
Yeah. So the thing is, sometimes you believe in certain things, right? And then that's a core fundamental belief.
Mm-hmm.
Then it's really hard to break.
Yeah.
But the thing is like when you go into something like autocrossing, it's almost like something a lot of times you have to break down everything that you used to do, because there are faster way of doing things. And then maybe your way is also faster. Like Mark Daddio left foot brakes, and then he's a king at this, super fast, right? He's like the few that could left foot brake and then still be just like super fast, right?
Wow.
So of course there are certain people that can really do it and do it well, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I would say is there are fundamental things that you have to learn to kind of go through autocrossing, and then what you imagine, what you picture, and what you assumed, oftentimes is not the same as what the reality is, right? So how long would it take me to kind of get better? If you have a lot of bad habits and all that stuff, it's done for a long time. Like for myself, years, right? But if you haven't developed a bad habit, or you're willing to listen to your instructors and stuff like that, could be pretty fast.
Acknowledge your own faults, and then
that's right. Or the naturals. There's a group of natural people that they just never develop the bad habits. They just they drive like how it's supposed to drive, right? They can enter this environment, everything comes natural to them.
Yeah.
So then all of a sudden they're 16 years old, they're national champions.
Yep.
Right? I've seen them, right? Or I've seen people that does it for 1 year, right?
Yep.
And then boom, they're good. Like Justin Neal.
Yeah, there you go.
Right? Like Justin Neal. But then you have other guys that's been doing it for a long time. I mean, like you take Dustin Grubbs, for example. That we interviewed Dustin, right? Dustin's been doing this for quite a few years. He just didn't do it with us. So for us, Justin is fairly new. Now you can see him. He's winning, every event that he's
everything.
Going, right?
Yep.
But there's years of practice and understanding and all that stuff to get him there, right? So to me, I don't know if there are very few people can go from not doing this at all into winning immediately, right? And I think majority of us, especially nowadays, I mean, you're looking for instant gratification and instant results and stuff like that, right? Yeah. Like people tend not to put, when you do a lot of effort at looking at the screen and finding information, right? That is not the real.
So you're saying,
like, listen to us, that's not going to make you fast.
Yes, true. So you're saying it might take different length of time, obviously, for different people to go faster. And their definition of fast, what is it? Is it winning nationals, or is it doing well in your class here locally, right? It could differ for everyone, could be a little bit different. But it sounds like what I'm picking up from what you're saying is, besides the handful, hard work, determination, repetition, and then it will come.
And get the right information.
I like that.
Right?
I like that.
You get the right information, right?
Yep.
So there are all this information out there, right?
Yes.
Don't pick the one that sounds good to you and think that that's the right information.
So true.
Right?
Yep.
So the reason I took a while is you hear information from everybody,
sure,
right? If you cover a lot. And then if you really don't understand the subject really, really well, even though you think you do, right? Test them. Take that theory, test what you heard and you think it's fast. And then, every time you go to a race, there's results, right? If you test them, you're still sitting over here. After a couple, 2 or 3 repeat tests, right? It's probably not going to work, right? Then you test another theory that you did, right?
Yeah.
Don't do it like one run and say, this sucks, right?
Right. Yes.
Do the same thing for 3 events. Get 10, 15, 20 runs, right? And look at that data and says, oh, hey, this is helping me. This is better. I'm jumping a little bit faster now, right?
Yep.
And then you build on the next theory that you want to test. So basically, I'm asking or like recommending using a scientific approach in this, right?
Test it out. Yep.
Test it out, right? Like everything that you do, test it out. Grab it, find out a theory, right? Yep. Is shuffle steering faster for you, right? Or 3 and 9 faster? Test it out, right? Which one makes you more comfortable, right? Ideally, you shouldn't even think about that. If you're still thinking that, okay, here, I want to put my hands over here and this is how I steer versus that, you're not going to go fast. I'm sorry.
Nope.
right?
Yep.
Yeah, that should come natural. That should be something that's if you're naturally good at shuffle stair, use shuffle stair. If you're naturally good at 3 and 9, you do that, right?
Yeah.
These things shouldn't be something that you're concerning with, right? So I would say in general, once you get good at this, right, and then it's harder to improve, because I remember, 18 years ago when I first started at WDCR, right, for the SCCA group, they used to have a like a motto or like a quote.
Okay.
Right?
What was it?
Okay. It's called 2 seconds is an eternity.
2 seconds is an eternity. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you think that you're within 2 seconds off the top.
It's an eternity.
That 2 seconds is an eternity. It could take
is.
you a lifetime. You're still 2 seconds. Right?
Yep.
6 seconds to 2 seconds, pretty fast.
But 2 seconds is an eternity.
2 seconds to 0 second is an eternity. Right?
Yeah.
So how long would you get better? It depends on where you are, right? If you're within 2 seconds, how long's an eternity? It's never
an eternity, forever.
right. Because if you're really, really good at this, it won't be 2 seconds. You'll be there.
Yeah.
Right. And not too many people gets there. Only a chosen few, right? Like Neo. Neo, like Keanu Reeves.
Well,
Matrix.
that's if your goal is to be the fastest one there, right?
That's right. Yeah. But to improve
it.
how long you have to get better, right? So the better is, the reality is, if you test enough, if you put enough seat time there, if you have an organized way of measuring your performance, right? Like I'm running against Ada, right? That first event, I was 3 seconds behind Ada. The next time I'm 3 seconds behind Ada. And then the following day, I am 2 seconds behind Ada. And then all of a sudden I'm 1 second behind Ada. Then you got to start looking at, the courses. Are you running new tires? Is Ada running shitty cars?
Yeah, no, right. Exactly.
Right. So those
Put the
all
data down. Yep.
Those all come into play.
Yep.
Right.
And you can't do any of that stuff. You can't do any of that science without showing up and doing it over and over and over.
Yeah. So generally, if you show up at the event, one after another, do it fairly consistently, right?
Yes.
Then you're going to see the improvement.
Yep.
So, and the more you do, the faster you're going to see the improvement.
All right.
And
So
you
let's
want to break the habit.
let's book it then. Uncle Danny says, "How long will it take me to get better?" 1 year.
That's pretty optimistic.
Better to get better.
To get better?
Show
Okay.
up every event. Show up as many as you can do. 1 year, you will be better.
Okay. So, like what I said, I don't want to drag this out very long for this segment, but I'll give you some, concrete examples.
Sure.
It took me 7 years to start winning national events consistently. Right.
Yeah.
And then, but that's just national events.
Mhm.
And it took me 2 more years, the 9th year, before I trophy at nationals.
Amazing.
And from that point on, I could consistently trophy at nationals. Right. Until I started running with Ada, I wasn't paying attention. I didn't really care. So I didn't
Oops.
trophy that.
Sorry about that.
Right. But once you got to a point where you can trophy at nationals, you can trophy at nationals all the time. And that took me 9 years. And then I trophied my first national event, the very first one, in 2012 or 11.
Wow.
And that was by luck, right? So it took me 5 years to trophy the first time. It took me until 2013, which is about 7 years in, to start winning national events.
Wow.
And then I would dabble to trophy all the time and national events, not nationals.
Right.
And then all of a sudden I pulled up a win here and there.
Wow. Yeah.
Right. So for me, I go to a lot of events, at DC events in a very competitive class. I ran STU, with the Evos. There were 35, 29, 27 people in my class, right?
Yeah. Super.
So I would get up to fight against the front, to be like, top 3 after probably about, I would say, a year and a half.
Wow.
But that's including, I attend every school.
Yep.
Right. I try to bring the best equipment.
Yep.
And then I didn't really break a lot of bad habits, during that time. But even with bad habits, I can sneak up because I can get away with, a car that actually does things. Right. Yeah. So I would say you're going to start, if you do this consistently, at least twice a month, I think after a year and a half, you'll see, benefits.
Improvements.
You'll see
benefits,
improvements. Yeah.
That's awesome.
And then after a while, I would say hopefully after 3 years, like locally, you should be able to contend for the win of the class.
That's awesome. Yep.
All the time. I mean, I would really be surprised unless you're running against, 3 or 4 people in, that runs locally. That's like the top of, of everything. Then
do you remember when STR was crazy competitive in DC?
Yeah. So yeah, that, STR still is, right?
Yeah, it still is. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Because you have Marcus Pine, Great Pollock,
Yep.
it's,
Yep.
these guys are runs at nationals and Gray could trophy at nationals. Marcus is almost contending to the win now, right?
That's amazing.
So if you want to jump into that class and compare, there's no shame, being 2, 3, 4 seconds below them.
Yep.
Right. They're the top. They're running close to the top.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
And then there are classes that, the perennial, championship winner at the locals will finish probably, like the bottom 20%.
Right.
It's just the way it is, right?
Yep. That's just the way.
And then again, it all depends on your goal or whatever. If you simply look for improvement and then just do it often, attend the class, look out on your cars, learn how to set it up, and then run that, use the good equipment and all that stuff. And then you should do fairly well, after I would say about a year and a half or so.
That's awesome.
That would be my take.
Well, thank you for putting a date on it, because it's so hard to conceptualize without that. You know what I mean? Like, it's go out there, give yourself a year, send it all the time.
Yeah.
Attend, get tires, go to the schools, do it all. You'll see growth. Yeah.
And then, another thing is like, be humble, try to learn, right? And don't make assumptions, right?
Yeah.
When you, it's really kind of difficult for me to say this, but if you go to a race, you happen to do well one time.
Yeah.
You start trash talk all the people around you, right? They're not going to make you learn anything afterwards.
You're right.
Right.
Worse, they're not going to invite you out to eat afterwards.
That's right. That's the worst. You're not giving a good stomach. I mean, like afterwards, right? I mean, you're still going to be hungry. But the thing is when you go there, learn from people that are fast, right?
Yeah.
If you win, be humble, and then just continue to try to learn, right? Because you're learning from a group of people around you. Then after that, there's another group of people that are faster.
Yeah.
If you can't even pass, and earn the trust of your friends, within your own group here, you would never learn the trust from the next group of people.
Correct.
Right. And then that will make life or improvement much, much, much harder.
Takes longer.
It just takes longer. It just takes longer, right? I mean, I can tell you, if you every once in a while, if you get somebody who's fast and give you a pat on the back and say, "Hey, man, that's a good run," right? You know what that means? That means that they're watching you.
Oh, that's cool.
Right? When the faster people are watching you, you're almost there.
Yep.
Right? And then, believe it or not, if they give you a pat on the back and say, "That's a good run," but you messed up that corner. This is what you have to do in that corner.
Listen.
That's how you learn more.
Yep.
Right. And then that's the time you can ask them and say, how would you approach that corner? If they come out and freely share and say, okay, here, I set it up on this and get on throttle here, and that's how I run that corner. If you can get those information, that's the ones that's almost priceless, right?
Yeah.
You can, if they tell you early, you can instantly apply.
Yep.
To that. So it makes a humongous amount of difference if you can do that.
Fantastic.
Yeah. I guess the biggest thing is this. If you enjoy this hobby, right? If you like what this racing is, right? Just look at it as a long game. It's a long-term game, right? It is a long game, right?
Yep.
If you look at it as a short-term thing, you want to accomplish something and then move on, right? You can do that, of course, right? I mean, nobody's stopping anybody from doing that. But that is not, I don't know if that's autocrossing.
Right.
Autocrossing is not, hey, I'm going to win stuff and then I'm good enough, I'm out of here, right? Checkbox, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if it's like that. Yeah.
I don't think it's like that for us.
Right.
I think we enjoy it. So we're just going to keep doing it.
And then if you don't win and then you stop enjoying the event and because you're not winning, right?
Yeah.
Stop, right? Don't waste the money because we're wasting thousands and thousands of dollars every year on this, right? So we're not really looking at how good we're going to be or if I'm winning everything or whatever, right?
Yeah.
It's actually if this is bring you a joy, right?
Yeah.
And fun and stuff like that. And that's the only reason why I'm doing this. So the question is a good question, but I do think that if you look at this hobby as a long-term kind of a fun that you're dealing with, then it's probably not that important, how long it would take me to go faster, isn't it?
Exactly.
Right.
But it's the first thing that I thought about when I was a novice.
That's right. No, it's 100% relevant, right?
Yep.
But I would encourage everyone to look beyond that, right?
Yep.
It's about the joy of this hobby that brings you, right? Is what's important. Yeah. Including going fast, obviously.
It's got, definitely.
Yeah. All right. So let's wrap up our 15th episode of the DMV Autocross Podcast. And thank you for spending, the last hour with us and then the weekend. Hope you find this enjoyable, fun, and informative.
And don't forget to join us for the next episode. And until then, keep those tires on the track and that wing in the back.
How many wings do you have?
I don't know. I don't even.
Everything's in the back.
If your wing's not in the back, it means you're spinning around.
Oh, I know. That could be a problem. All right. We'll see you next one.
All right. See you. All right, everyone. We're back and we have everyone's favorite segment that doesn't have to do with weather. Ask Uncle Danny. All right, Uncle Danny. I don't know if all of our listeners know this. You are a family man.
Leave me alone. I'm a family man.
You've been married for
my
hundreds
bark
of years.
is worse than my bite.
What?
No, wait, man. That's too old, isn't it?
Are you singing a song? No old songs from the 20s or whatever, the 30s, whatever you're. I don't.
It's Daryl Hall and John Oates.
Did they even have music back then?
Huh?
Did they even?
I know that they're
music?
no longer friends, though. Daryl Hall is no longer friends with John Oates.
Is that like the first musical rivalry, the first musical beef? It's like the old school Drake.
No. I think the first beef
Lamar?
was like Beatles, right? When
Oh my god!
It's between everybody else versus Yoko Ono.
Oh my god! Yoko.
Yoko. Oh no.
So good.
Speaking of music, Ada. I mean, a few minutes ago you had the Prince haircut.
Is it still there?
There you go, right there.
Look at this. That's a $200 curl.
Right now, man, looking at your shirt, you remind me of Purple Rain. You're the autocross artist formerly known as Ada Tabesh.
Oh my god! Can I just use a symbol like on the results?
Yeah,
sheet? I just want a symbol. Like I don't want a letter or a name. It's a symbol. It's like a picture.
Don't use this.
Oh! All right, no more Ask Uncle Danny. We're done. Cut the segment.
Oh. Quickest way to go for me to take a break.
Let me start again. You're a family man.
Yes.
You've been doing this for a long time. You got a couple kids. They got families. You got a wife. There's a lot happening here, and you've been doing this for a long time. So to some of us that have younger kids like myself, it's almost like, oh, cool. I might be able to, if I take some tips and tricks from Uncle Danny, I might be able to do this for a while. And, ask Uncle Danny, how do you juggle family life and autocross for the long haul? That's the question.
That's an interesting question, isn't it?
Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do. So first of all, I've been doing it for almost 20 years, right? It's not that long because I'm almost 60, right?
Okay.
So what this means is I never did this when the kids were young or little.
Yeah,
right?
You did. Yeah, you did.
No, I started autocrossing when my youngest daughter went to college.
Oh.
Yeah. So
you're cheating. That's not fair.
Huh?
That's not fair.
So that's why I can do whatever I'm going to do, whatever I can do, because many people think, right? Most people think that I must be like well-to-do so I can get to do a lot of autocrossing and then I buy different autocross cars, right? No, the only difference is I'm old.
Oh my God. I don't know why. I just always assumed they were maybe not babies, but like they weren't in college when you started. I thought they were younger.
No, I started when they went to college.
Oh.
So you got to remember, I think autocrossing or racing there are two things. I mean, any hobby when you go extreme, you're going to take up all the time and miss all the family stuff.
Golf,
but
cars.
Two of the biggest ones, right, is car racing.
Okay.
Right.
Yep.
Because when you're not racing, you're working on your car.
Yes.
If you want to get fast. So that takes up all the time. Right. And then the other hobby I would say is golf. Because you can golf literally every day. Right. You can race every day.
Yeah.
Right. But you can golf every day. I mean, every day. Right. So so earlier on, I used to golf a lot before racing. That's when my kids were in school. Right. I golfed 500 rounds a year.
Wow.
For 3 years straight.
500 rounds? What does that mean? Like each hole is a round?
No, each 18 holes is a round.
18 holes is one round.
Yes. I golf 500 rounds.
So that 500 times 18.
That's right.
Danny,
you take that
crazy.
divided by 365 days.
That means you're doing 30 holes a day.
Yeah, that's like
40.
1.5. That's like, like, what do you call it? 18 plus 9 holes, like 27 holes a day.
Yeah, I was thinking 30 off the top, but yeah.
Weekends, I often play 3 rounds on Saturday and 3 rounds on Sunday. I know. And then every day when I get up in the morning, I go sneak out and play golf, or then after work, I sneak out and play golf. Right. So that is the hard part, right?
That's why, that's a lot.
Oh yeah. Well, that's why it's broken. I have a lot of broken things.
I just thought about swinging that many times.
I can't swing a golf club anymore.
That motion.
Yeah.
Oh,
if
man.
you don't do it right, it's just like when you drive, you don't drive it right. Forget about hitting stuff. If you don't drive it right, you are going to be slower, right? That's your punishment.
Right. Sure.
If you swing wrong, you're going to play awful, but you're also going to damage yourself.
You're going to hurt yourself. But even if you swing right, Danny, based on the number of swings for each hole,
yeah,
we just calculated thousands of holes.
I know. I just look at Tiger Woods, right? I mean, Tiger Woods is playing thousands and thousands and thousands of rounds, right? And you just look at how many injuries and all that stuff he has.
He's always hurt.
Yeah, he's always in surgery.
He's always hurt. Yeah.
So anything that you do a lot takes away from the family.
Sure.
And then certain things that you hurt yourself. So I guess the best way for me to do it is I'll combine my racing experience and my golf experience. And then that will cover, my kids are little, that I spend all the time doing my other crap, right?
Right. Because they were little when you were doing the golfing.
Yeah. So I would say this though. I mean, this is legit. I golfed so much at one point, right? I remember my older daughter was 7, right? When I was golfing a lot. And then they went to DC, they went to Cherry Blossom or whatever. And they came back and I was looking at those pictures and say, oh man, that's pretty good. After I golf, I came back, my wife and my in-laws took them there. Right? I came back and said, oh, these things are really good. And then I said, well, did you do this? Right? I mean, did you get a chance to try this and that?
Yeah.
She didn't answer me anything. She says, well, you weren't even there. So why do you bother to ask? This is my daughter at 7 years old.
Oh.
Right? So that was a rude awakening for me.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Right. So from that point on, I forced myself. I didn't have to force myself. I told myself that I was totally wrong. And then I try to get involved with everything that they're doing until they don't want me to get involved anymore.
Okay, that's funny at the end.
Right. I mean, there's going to be some point that your kid says, hey, get out of the way, Dad.
Right,
right. So I reinserted myself back into their lives because I was so like crazy into the hobby.
It was like an awakening.
That's right.
Moment. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. So to juggle family and your hobby is a very intricate thing. Right. But nowadays at my age, but it's always been like that. You have to put your family first.
Sure.
Sure. Because it's not going to be fun or enjoyable while you're doing your hobby where your whole family's mad at you.
That's facts. Yep.
Right?
Yep.
So I think that's the number one thing that how you juggle, right? You have your priorities. Just make sure your priorities right.
I like that.
Right?
Just make sure your priorities right.
Yeah, just make sure priority. So the answer is pretty easy. How to juggle. Just make sure your priority is right.
Okay, that's fair.
Right?
That's a good answer.
Yeah. So your priority should be your family first, right? And then it's making the money to support your family.
Sure.
That'll be next.
Yep.
Right. So your work comes into play.
Yep.
Yeah, I remember, like sneaking out and go play golf and stuff. I don't sneak out to go race, which is something that's good about this particular hobby when you think about it.
Yeah, it's
right?
hard to sneak out.
Yeah, it's hard to sneak out. But if you do national races, sometimes you sneak out Friday and then then drive something and you.
That's also a couple times a year. It's not every weekend.
That's right. Or like in my case, it was 11 times a year.
Oh my Lord. Okay.
Once a month. But the thing is, for racing, it's actually better for in your work situation because you when you go to work, you usually kind of stay at work because there's nothing to race unless you want to take off and go fix cars. But that's a pain in the butt. So who's going to do that? Right. But if somebody calls you 12 during lunchtime and say, hey, let's go sneak out and go play golf, right?
Yeah.
You're gone by 2:00.
Yeah, see ya.
Right. And then that's probably bad for your job if other people can, your supervisors don't want to put up with that, right?
Yeah.
So at least racing is better than golf in that respect. It's hard. Okay. It's less. It gives you less reason to sneak out.
Sure.
Yeah. So now we have to talk about. So now your number one priority is your family or your family. Then it's how to provide for your family.
Providing, which is usually a job, right?
Yeah. Then after that, you can focus on racing.
Autocross.
Right.
It's in the top 3. It's on the podium.
Right. Okay. So what I did, I fulfilled my family obligation.
Sure.
But they let me get out on the weekends a lot. Right. And then when your kids gets older, it's easier to do. When your kids get younger, especially if your spouse also work, the weekend is the time that everybody gather together.
Right.
Yeah. So what Lenny's doing, our friends Lenny and then John Williman, right? They have young families.
Yep.
Right. So they're doing, soccer coaching or do all of that stuff. And so what he does is he devotes one day on a Saturday to do everything for the family. Sunday, he gets a chance to sneak out.
Nice.
Right. There are less races on Sunday. There's more races on Saturday. Right. So on Sundays, it automatically has less chance to race. And then there's going to be Sundays there will be no race. Of course, he devotes his time with his family.
Sure.
And now when you devote a bunch of time with your family,
then you can,
then you can get out and then people, like your spouse and your family be fine with it.
Good.
Right. And plus you're not interfere with work because you only race on Sundays.
Right.
Which is perfectly cool.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
And then if your family got more activities and stuff like that, then you can consider, hey, maybe I'll run the morning.
Yeah, sure.
Or maybe I'll run the afternoon or whatever. Right.
Yes.
But the key thing, believe it or not, is if you do this racing thing a lot, I mean, it seems to me, of course, everybody's different, but in my own experience is when I started racing, your spouse doesn't know what's going on, which is okay. And then once you start racing a lot, they're like, man, what are you doing? Why are you racing all the time? This is kind of a BS, right?
Right.
Then after you consistently do that for a while, right? And then once they expect that you're always you're racing a lot, right?
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden when you're not racing, you say, wait, how come you're not racing? It will get to that point.
Sarah just said that to me like a few weeks ago. She was like, how come you're not racing? And I said, I literally said, because we're going to go do this tomorrow. And it's on the calendar. So that's my, I'm just figuring it out because she's a lot smarter than me, but I'm just figuring it out that the communication and putting it on the calendar, that's all she wanted from me. It was to let her know.
Exactly.
So we have a calendar now that has it.
If you get to a point where your family and spouse recognize that there's going to be your racing time, and it becomes part of the schedule,
and
then you
actual schedule.
Then you have successfully juggled between your family and race.
I think I finally am doing it.
Yeah,
I don't want to speak too loud because she might be able to hear me, but like I think I figured out at least, like, because the last thing I want is for her with these 3,000 kids that she has is to feel abandoned. Right.
Yes.
That's the last thing I want.
Well, I mean, if you put all the kids' work on her, right?
Yeah.
It's going to be somewhat unfair. But you as a good dad, you take your kids to the race. Right. So, I've never taken my kids to a race.
If she's not looking, I'll grab them all. I'm like,
they're too old. Yeah. I actually took my older daughter to a race and then actually she raced.
That's so
cool. She was old enough to race, right?
That's so cool.
And she goes, wow, Dad, this was fun. Like I say, hey, Audrey, you want to do it again? She goes, maybe once a year.
Oh, that's so cool.
And that was the last time she did it.
Oh.
And my younger daughter is like, leave me alone.
She's like, I'm good.
Yeah, I'm good. Yeah, go away. Yeah, you can go. I don't want to go.
Oh my God.
So to successfully juggle family, it doesn't mean that you have to involve your family as part of your activities.
Right.
But I would think that you initially should at least make an attempt to involve your family into activities.
Mm-hmm.
If anything, they're looking at what you're doing.
Yeah.
Right. And then they understand why you're having fun.
Yeah.
Right. And then when they recognize is that, oh, your dad is, the father or mother is
Husband
having
or
fun.
Or mother. Yeah.
Husband or wife is having fun. But the other person's like, okay, well, if that makes you happy, go do it.
There you go.
Then you're good.
Yeah.
Just, you have to worry about the only part you have to worry about is what happens if it gets excessive.
Right.
That becomes a problem.
Yes.
Right. So juggling family and autocross is actually a very easy thing. You meet your number one priority, which is your family.
Mm-hmm.
Then you cover your obligations from your working and how to provide for your family.
Yep.
And then whatever the leftover time, you go do it. And then Lenny, Williman, they do that.
I love
right.
it.
And then you have the folks that shows up all the time. But to be honest, I mean, you see Gaffney runs all the time.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I run all the time.
Yep.
Howard runs all the time.
Yep.
Steve Mitchell runs all the time,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yep.
Man, our wife wants us to get out of there. Right? So that's never a problem. So you see, people in a certain age, they're always out running.
Seasoned. We call them seasoned.
Because there's no family obligation.
God, you've made it.
And then for some people, there's no providing family obligation.
Mm-hmm.
That's when you have all of the time. And that's why you don't have to juggle anything.
Yeah, there's no juggling.
You just go. So, but those are for the older people, right?
Yeah.
Like myself, right? And then people who are my age or a little bit older. Then for the younger ones, it gets really tough if you have a family but you're like in it.
Yeah.
Right. And then we have several friends like that. Right. Yeah. Okay. So then that's the juggling really becomes, like, how do you make sure that your spouse is happy or,
yes. Yeah.
All that stuff that becomes much more interesting. But I've seen a few people that are racing at a really, really high level,
mm-hmm.
but they're working extremely hard at a certain level,
mm-hmm.
right? They're spending less time with their spouse, but the spouse so far has been okay with it.
Yeah.
Right. And then for me, probably going to be like no sleep.
Yeah. There you go.
Right. So you do your family obligation, you make your money, and whatever leftover time, which is at night.
At like 10 o'clock at night, 11 o'clock at night. Yeah.
Right. So I can't tell you that. I mean, even though I didn't have that much of a family obligation, but I still have the providing for family obligation for majority of the time I was racing.
Yep.
So what I end up doing is 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, I walk into the garage.
Yep.
And then I'm there until 3 a.m.
Man.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And then I struggle to get up at 7, 8 o'clock in the morning and keep on doing work and then repeat that again. So we're talking about 4 hours of sleep. Yeah. And that also takes a toll on you. Right?
It does.
But it kind of keeps you going, right? So these are the things that you can juggle. So anyway, I don't want to drag this out too long. If you want to successfully juggle,
mm-hmm.
make sure your family's happy, satisfied that priority, and then satisfied the providing, right?
Yep.
Rest of the time, including sleeping time, man, you knock yourself out until you can't do anymore. Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah. So that's my take.
I love it.
All right. But I would recommend get 8 hours of sleep.
Sleep later, bro. I'm not worried about sleeping.
Otherwise, it's probably not good for your health. So it's probably not good.
Yeah, it's
then
fine.
you won't have a chance to do anything.
You'll be all right.
Yeah,
you don't need to sleep that much.
I sleep a lot now because I don't work anymore.
So. Okay. It's been literally like 2 days. Let's relax, everyone.
7 days. 7 days.
A whole 7 days, a week. Congrats.
7 days of not working. It's great.
Okay.
I sleep every day until like 11.
Oh my God. No, you don't.
Yeah. Yeah, but my arthritis is acting up. I'm working too hard.
Oh my God. I feel like you've been busier the last week than ever before. Like, I don't know what you're pretending, like you're retired now. You've been running around like a mad. You just got home to do podcasting. What were you even doing? Like,
it's pretty crazy. I went to Harrisburg today, but
that's what I'm saying. You're doing so much.
But I would say though, what I would say is I've been sitting on my desk, right? I mean, when I used to go to work, at least I have to drive to work.
Right.
Right. And the work is, during the work, I during lunchtime, I'll force myself to go out and walk around and go get some lunch and come back.
Yep.
So my days are covered with getting to work, some activity to get to work, and then stand up and go somewhere. Mm-hmm. And then I go to lunch, which I get out, stand up and get out.
Yeah.
And then I come back and work and then I go home. So there's some movement. Right. Yeah. But in the last 4 years since the pandemic, I'm sitting at my desk when the day starts, and I'm sitting all the way until 6, 7 o'clock when it's done.
Yep.
And then I probably go to the bathroom and come right back and sit down, or make myself some lunch and come back and sit down. So I've been sitting 10, 11, 12, 13 hours a day.
Yeah.
Right. But ever since I stopped working, right.
Been moving, haven't you?
I never sit around. I mean, the only time I sit around is just do some podcast work.
Yep. I could see it. Even your hair is starting to look really nice. So
yeah. So I'm running around and all that stuff. And I feel better because I'm moving.
Good.
Yeah.
That's so good.
So yeah, that's another good thing. So if you want to juggle your family, number one priority is you have to live longer and have some health.
There you go. Health.
That's right. Yeah.
For your
and
health.
then with good health, then you can worry about juggling.
Oh my God. I love it.
Yeah. All right. So that's it for me.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Uncle Danny. That was how to juggle family and autocross.
See you in the next one. Oh, hey, there's more. A couple of weeks ago,
Central Pennsylvania SCCA
put up their annual Cone Killer Classic at the Mid-State Airport in central Pennsylvania. Lots of DC autocrossers attended, including Sam Strano, Vinavas, and other folks. Team Zip Tie was heavily represented there, and then they enjoyed the 2 days of fun. Michael Moran was kind enough to provide this highlight of the Cone Killer Classic from the perspective of Team Zip Tie. So to sign off this episode, please enjoy Mike Moran's YouTube video of the Cone Killer Classic. Enjoy.
You're out there driving around. Vinavas is watching and he goes, he doesn't know it's you, right? And he goes, hey, he's going pretty good. I'm like, well, it's Mike, he should be. And as soon as I say that, you blow that corner down. And I'm like, maybe it's not Mike. Nope, it was Mike.
I would love to drive this thing.
It's so much fun.
I mean, this would have to be the next level.
Hey Team Zip Tie. The Central Pennsylvania region's Cone Killer Classic has become my favorite autocross of the year. For the past 2 years, this has been a sort of foster home for my Capital Driving Club family, and this year we finally had Boo ready for more drivers. We had Sarah back in the car with us both days. Then Jared joined Sunday. As well as Joe after he put the F in F mod. Reflecting on the weekend, I realized that Boo embodies the values that we cherished in Capital Driving Club, essentially sharing the fun of autocross. If you see us out there, hop in the passenger seat for a run. That's why we put one there.
I don't really like F mod, but I like Joe. Joe likes F mod. I think Joe likes F mod.
If you enjoyed this video, check out my recap from Solo Nationals 2023, where Greg and I flat-towed Boo 2,500 miles to Lincoln, Nebraska and back, behind a Tesla. I'll see you all soon.